Internet, hello you lovelies, and welcome to Deadpool month. I am so excited to embark on this crazy month with you guys. As you might expect, I am so excited for Deadpool and Wolverine, and I thought it'd be fun to put together a series of videos leading up to the release of Deadpool and Wolverine. As a lifelong Deadpool fan, I am so excited to see this perfect amalgamation of the Fox universe getting its swan song and setting Deadpool up in the MCU. So this video isn't a general what Deadpool comics to read if you like Deadpool. It is very specifically what 5 Deadpool comics I'd recommend you check out leading up to specifically Deadpool and Wolverine. I did make sure all the comics are more approachable. They don't have a lot of continuity and other things you need to read to go into it, but I do think they are tonally what I expect Deadpool and Wolverine to be. Now, this is the beginning of Deadpool month. I've also got next week, same day on Thursday, a Wolverine version of this, 5 Wolverine comics specific to the tonality of Deadpool and Wolverine, and the following week after that on Thursday, a general Marvel/X-Men comics. Now on Fridays, I'm going to be doing movie versions of this. So this Friday is going to be Ryan Reynolds movies I recommend before you see the movie, some deep cuts, some obscure films of his that I love. Next Friday, Hugh Jackman to tie into Wolverine. And finally, on the Friday leading up to the release, Shawn Levy movies, a quick breakdown of some of his stuff that I think makes him the perfect director for Deadpool and Wolverine. So this entire month is stacked for this exact movie. Please subscribe to this page if any of that interests you. If you like movie news, movie reviews, comic reviews, all of that is on this very page. Without further ado, 5 Deadpool comics that I think you should read to prepare for Deadpool and Wolverine. All right, first up is a book I think represents the tone of Deadpool and Wolverine, in that this book is going to be full of heart and comedy and some horrors and some really emotional journeys to go through that use levity as a way to escape. It is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And not only is it a book I think you should read before Deadpool and Wolverine, it is actually my favorite Deadpool arc of all time, in any medium, in anything. This book means the world to me. It's only 5, maybe 6 issues in a miniseries. It's a complete arc. You don't need to read anything before, never have to read anything again. You can read just this story and get everything in it. And this is a beautiful story. It is from Gerry Duggan and Declan Shalvey. Gerry Duggan is one of my favorite Deadpool writers of all time. His irreverence, his sense of world building, the heart he imbues into the Mark of the Mouth is what I love about the character. And the art is from Declan Shalvey. He's a buddy of mine. He's a good Irishman. And the darkness, the weight, the heaviness, the intensity that Declan puts into this story. Declan's the guy that invented Mr. Knight of Moon Knight. He made that character in the world of Moon Knight and made it his own. Here, he really makes Deadpool his own. And not only do you get Deadpool here, not only do you get Wolverine here, in part why I think some of their bond and the way they treat each other is going to be reflected in the movie, but you also get a Captain America story here. And what I love is Cap's respect for Wade Wilson as a bit of a soldier and as someone who is trying to do the right thing. Logan and Wade obviously have their history, but it's interesting to see the dynamic of the two of them and Captain America. This story takes place with, it's a dark story. This story is basically, Deadpool finds out there are experiments being done on people in Korea, and he wants to free these people being turned into mutated versions of the X-Men using his DNA. And as a lot of continuity has Wolverine's DNA being a part of what makes Wade what he is, it's a really harrowing story of like the shadow and the impact and the legacy of these things, and these poor broken people in this camp that are trapped and are being abused. And it's really beautiful to see the heart of what I think Deadpool is, the beauty of the character inside the jokes. I always say it, but Deadpool wears a mask not to hide his identity, it's to protect you from his horrible face, and his humor is a defense mechanism. And I think this comic, more than most, and maybe more than any, captures all that in only a few issues, and I could not recommend it more. Tragedy mixed with that comedy is what we're about to get on July 26th with Deadpool and Wolverine. All right, let's go over to action, because yes, this movie's going to have a lot of heart. It's going to have a lot of comedy, but it's going to have so much action. These are just 2 issues, and you get the whole story. They are Wolverine number 154 and 155. They are written and illustrated by Rob Liefeld being Deadpool's dad, and this is a perfect example of the two of them just brawling. This is Wolverine versus Deadpool, and like any good comic, they eventually team up, but this is a throwdown fight that I'm not going to share them here because I don't believe in sharing paparazzi photos, but if you've seen any of the leaked photos that, again, I wish I hadn't seen, there is a lot of the DNA of even the fighting style. Like I think they actually used these comics as frames, as storyboards for a fight in the movie, because there are some specific moves in this comic that we are going to see in Deadpool and Wolverine. So I am elated that Rob Liefeld not only got that joke in the opening of the trailer, not only is he referenced in the first two films, but it looks like one of his most iconic arcs with the Merc is going to be directly reflected in Deadpool and Wolverine. So I would recommend reading The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly for a tone, and I would recommend reading these two for the throwdown action we're about to get in Deadpool and Wolverine. Definitely check these two issues out. I think they're on Marvel Unlimited right now. All right, we've talked about tone, we've talked about action style. Now let's talk about story itself. This is a theory I've had for a number of years. I got receipts. I've even got an interview with me and Rob talking about it. This is, I think, the loose adaptation of a story we're going to get, and it's Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. Now, Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe is an iconic Deadpool story. It is written by Cullen Bunn. It is illustrated by Talajic, and this is a story that is infamous. It really works uniquely only in this format. And that's why I don't think it's going to be an adaptation in a direct way. I don't think it's going to be a translation. But what I do think happens is, I personally think, and I haven't seen the film yet, that's why I wanted to get these videos out early, I think we get a Wolverine that has failed his universe and that is maybe even responsible because of Cassandra Nova, and I think I'm going to make a video about her later. But because of Cassandra Nova, Wolverine gets brainwashed, and I'm going to talk about Wolverine getting brainwashed in comics in his video, but I think that causes the end of heroes in his world, which reflects Days of Future Past and a lot of other things. But I think what happens to Wade is he's enlisted by a TVA, and I don't know if it's our TVA or just a TVA, and maybe Cassandra Nova to take out the Fox universe. I think we're getting some closure for the universe that Wade Wilson is from. Now, I think Wade Wilson being a character that knows he's in a movie, that knows he's in a comic movie is perfect, because when he breaks the fourth wall, it's because he's in another universe and he's aware of that universe.
Whoa. Is that supposed to be scary? Pegging isn't new for me, friendo, but it is for Disney.
It's also perfect because now we can have Deadpool in PG-13 films and have him censored, because his universe had R ratings and his movies can have R ratings, but if you put him in an Avengers film, you can have some language. So I really think that works for that part of the narrative, but in the actual storytelling narrative, I don't think that Wade is going to be a mercenary hired to kill the X-Men. I think he's going to be cleaning up timelines. I think he's going to be cleaning up continuity. I think he's going to be doing the right thing, and I think in this case, he's going to believe that what you need to do is end this collision of universes. So in the comic book, Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe because he's hired to, and it's a little bit more the malicious side of Wade. It's a lot darker. He kills very violently. It's a much more hard R-rated comic. I know that Deadpool Wolverine is going to be R-rated, but I think the maliciousness is not going to be the cause of this. But I do think we're going to see some things reflected in the movie that come from this comic. And again, not a translation, but the concept of what Deadpool is going to think he needs to do and what he's going to end up doing are going to be at least reflected in this book in some way, shape, or form. What I'm curious about is, if this is a swan song for all the X-Men, all the Fox characters, how much remorse we'll get to have? How much beyond the cameos will we get story developments of saying goodbye to these characters? Because there's a lot of really heartbreaking moments in this comic saying goodbye to characters. I'm hoping if this is the last time we see Storm or Cyclops or any of those takes on the characters, we'll get some moments, some just desserts, some actual payoffs with those characters. Because it's not fair that we got the X-Men 24 years ago and the last couple movies didn't work out, and the last movie, New Mutants, barely came out because of the pandemic. It's not fair to such a rich legacy to have it not have a goodbye. And I think with Deadpool's heart and with the sorrow wrapped in the character, with the ravages of humanity, with the cancer storylines, the death following him, there's so much. I mean, he literally courts death like Thanos. But with death being such an essential part of the character, and with the weight of what Shawn Levy can do and how talented Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are, I think this movie and a loose adaptation of this storyline would really be a really beautiful way to say goodbye to these X-Men. And I'm sure we're going to get some of them in Secret Wars, but I think in order to launch X-Men in the MCU, let's say bye to the Fox one first. And this movie is perfect for that. And a loose, again, loose, not malicious, adaptation of this story is perfect for that movie. All right, let's talk about Deadpool as a team player. Let's talk about Deadpool in action, in adventure, in good storytelling, in a bittersweet, very sad, but incredibly impactful story. Let's talk about one of the best team books, one of the best mutant books, one of the best X books of all time. It is 2010's Uncanny X-Force. This book is an all-timer. This is Rick Remender, who wrote Deadly Class, one of my favorite comics of all time. He's also writing a ton of incredible indie comics right now. If you want some Rick Remender recommendations, leave a comment below, because like Grommets is insanely good. The Sacrificers is good. I got you. Just leave a comment below. But this is also with art by Jerome Opena. And Jerome Opena is a painter with his pencils. He's got this vibrant, very rich, illustrated comic style that's also photorealistic. Like, look at some of these pages right here. This man is a genius. You put these two together, you get an all-time X-Men book. This has some of my favorite Deadpool moments in it, like a moment between him and Angel that absolutely breaks my heart every time I read it. Some great sacrifices of what their powers allow them for are part of what makes the X-Force interesting. Now, if you only know X-Force from Deadpool 2, they use that as a bit of a joke. Like, it's Deadpool failing to assemble his own X-Men and finding his own, C-listers. But X-Force in the comics is an R-rated team because they do the stuff that the X-Men won't. They're the Black Ops team. They're the Off the Books team. And I would love to eventually see the X-Force handled that way. I loved the fun of them in Deadpool 2, but I'd also eventually love to see a Black Ops, SEAL Team 6-esque X-Men team, and that's what this book is. So if you like your X-Men serious, if you like your comics a little more hard edge, if you like, your Lethal Weapons, your R comedies, your R action comedies especially, this leans more drama than comedy. The comedy sings when it lands, but man, Rick Remender can write tension and drama, and Jerome Opena can make you feel these characters. I could not recommend all 4 of these books more, but if you want to go more team than individual, check out X-Force. And for the last of my top 5 recommendations for Deadpool before you see Deadpool and Wolverine, you got to go to the Merc with the Mouth himself, and I would say 1997's Joe Kelly run of Deadpool is where you go. So I went on a journey here. We went through tone, we went through action, we went through my story ideas, and then we went through what I think a team dynamic for the character would be. I want to go to the root of the character himself at the end. If you get to this point, you've read the other ones, there is no one, in my opinion, and no disrespect to Gerry Duggan, Brian Posehn, Rob Liefeld, whoever's on the book now, I think it's Cody Ziegler, everyone that's written Deadpool, I appreciate all of you. But for me, Joe Kelly has such a unique voice for the Merc with the Mouth, and he adds and added, and has since a lot of writers have built on that, this incredible complexity. There is something about what Joe Kelly brought to the Merc with the Mouth back in 97 that is so special. That fourth wall breaking is so wonderfully used here in storytelling. The idea of these existential crises, the reader being acknowledged, the sadness in his humor, the brokenness in what Wade Wilson is, the characters introduced are hugely reflected in the movie so far. What Joe Kelly brought, building on the bones of what Rob Liefeld before him had brought, is so powerful. And again, I love all these writers, but Joe Kelly, when I think about Deadpool, I think of him and Gerry Duggan's run. But when I think about the brokenness, it really, really hit me with the 1997 Joe Kelly run. And if you love the fourth wall breaking, check this out. If you love the violent ninja elements, check out this and Rob Liefeld's versions. But if you want all of that in one package, there's nothing quite like this collection. This is specifically a Joe Kelly collection, starting with his issue 1 back in 97. And it's, I think, the greatest hits. It's now, that's what I call Deadpool. It's the quintessential Merc with the Mouth. So if you want just the character of Deadpool, no flourish, none of the extra stuff I've described, check out Joe Kelly's run. The man gets the character. The man reinvented the character. The man keeps reinventing the character, which brings me to my bonus. I couldn't just do 5. It's me. You guys are on this channel. If you know me, you know it's impossible. I could have done the top 20, but we're doing 5 and a bonus. The bonus I would highly recommend is Joe Kelly and Ed McGuinness on Spider-Man and Deadpool, the first volume. You can keep reading. I recommend you do, but if you're just going to read one, check out the first volume. Isn't it bromantic? This is on here because I think Deadpool as a team player is interesting, but I think Deadpool one-on-one is even more interesting. I love him with Wolverine, but Spider-Man is part of what inspired the character to get created. Rob Liefeld has said Wolverine and Spider-Man were the 2 creations that really made what Deadpool was in his mind, and I think here you get to see the difference between Deadpool and Spider-Man because you see them side by side. Spider-Man and Deadpool both use comedy as a defense mechanism, but they use it differently. And the way they use it differently is wonderful here. The types of humor, the flavor of each of their humor is so unique. And Ryan Reynolds is exactly Deadpool. I've said it before. Ryan Reynolds was born. It just took years for him to get on the suit. He was born as Deadpool. It just took time for society to be like, oh, here's this costume. And that's what this comic feels like. It's exactly the sensibilities of Ryan Reynolds' comedy. It's exactly the dynamic you'd want between these 2 iconic characters. And the art by Ed McGuinness absolutely sings. I actually want this as my first tattoo. This cover, Isn't It Romantic, is literally when I commit to getting a tattoo, the first one I want to get, because I've always thought you either die a Spider-Man or live long enough to see yourself become a Deadpool. And in that, you'd have the tattoo reflecting which version you feel like today, because Spider-Man has that power, that responsibility, that altruism. But Deadpool is a broken man that does what he has to do, and his sense of comedy is pushing people away. Spider-Man's trying, and Deadpool is kind of given up in a lot of ways, and I love that reflected here in this book. So highly recommend you check out at least volume 1, Isn't It Romantic? That's your bonus extra reading if you'd like to. So check out each of these books. All right, so in quick summary, these 5 you need to read: The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly by Gerry Duggan, my favorite Deadpool arc of all time; Wolverine 154 and 155, Rob Liefeld's glorious action-packed magnum opus, some of my favorite action of all time. We've got Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe by Cullen Bunn, one of the most iconic Deadpool runs of all time; Uncanny X-Force, one of the most iconic X-Men runs of all time and some of the best action you'll see in comics; and Joe Kelly's Deadpool for the quintessential Deadpool, followed by a little bonus of Deadpool and Spider-Man Isn't It Romantic. Those are your reading assignments. I'll be back next week with my 5 recommendations for Wolverine, the 5 Wolverine comics you should read leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. The following week, we'll talk X-Men, but in between there, we're going to be doing the 5 Ryan Reynolds movies. I would highly recommend you watch some deep cuts. We're talking The Nines, we're talking Chaos Theory, some very obscure Ryan Reynolds movies that I think really inform him as an actor and what he brings to Deadpool beyond just the Van Wilders of it all. That is going to be tomorrow's video right here on this page, so please do subscribe. I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you guys soon. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these, what your favorite Deadpool comics are. The Daniel Way stuff almost made the cut. What your favorite comics in general are, but specifically I'd love to hear about Deadpool. Please, let's have a Deadpool, let's have a Merc with the mouth conversation in the comments below. And if any of the folks that are responsible for any of these books, any of these artists, these writers, anyone from the film, anyone involved with Deadpool at all, thank you for bringing me a character that has meant so much to me and helps me feel a little bit saner by reading an insane character navigate the world. Much love. Enjoy some Deadpool. Go read some comics. I'll see you guys tomorrow for the movies and next week for some Wolverine books.